Welcome to All Things Green. I'm Anton, here with my lovely co-host Shelby to discuss a variety of topics from across the sustainability universe. Shelby, what's cooking?
What have I been cooking lately? I just got back from vacation, so I was making a lot of things from things I already had in the pantry. So I made a little curry last night.
Nice.
That's what I've been cooking.
Curry's pretty dope.
Yeah, I like it.
I've not been cooking a whole lot, but I have been fermenting a whole lot. I just made some pickles.
Of cucumber pickles or pickled something else?
Cucumber pickles in the crock. Like, they're not pickled, they're fermenting.
Ah, I can't wait to taste those when they're done,
So
right?
yeah. That's going to be good news. But what is also good news is that, Shelby, we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and hopefully growing. So
that is exciting.
For our listeners and viewers, be sure to check us out on those platforms.
I love it. And you can tell your friends who were like, you're using Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts. Guess I can't listen to that. Now you can. No excuses.
No excuses. You have to listen to me now.
Exactly. That's what I'm telling all my friends and family. So thanks for that update, Anton.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to be doing a little bit of a science and tech episode.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. First, I'm going to talk about electric vehicles.
Harley
Harley Davidson edition.
Okay, that sounds great.
So this is somewhat recent news. I want to start with like a fun anecdote first. So I grew up right next door to my grandparents, and I would oftentimes like just go next door, like watch some cable TV at my grandparents' house because they had it, my parents didn't. But when I wasn't watching SpongeBob, my grandma would take us to the playground, okay? Mm-hmm. And whenever we were out in the playground, hot summer day, you'd hear like those bikers like roaring by you, and my grandma would always like viscerally like get this reaction on her face and be like, those devils. And she was saying like those devils.
I got it from the first
first
attempt.
time.
Yeah,
some people aren't really good with the Slavic accent, so I wanted to clarify. But it's kind of a silly anecdote, but every time a biker passes by, my grandma might not be saying those devils anymore.
Okay.
And that's because Harley Davidson is the CEO, Mr. 𝐒𝐳 has announced that they are going to be transitioning into fully electric.
Well, that's really cool. I have to say, I was hoping you'd say because your grandmother has just decided that she also wants to get on a motorcycle and she's just like changing her lifestyle and approach. But the EV motorcycle.
Don't give her any ideas. She's a very adventurous firecracker at 84 years old.
Maybe you just need to get her a little sidecar and she could really get into it.
Oh yeah, get like one of those like, Russian Ural motorcycles, put her in the sidecar, get one of those like fun helmets, and I'll just drive her around.
Exactly, that's what I had in mind. But I think you were trying to tell me something a little more serious, that Harley's hoping to go electric? That seems like big news to me. It's not what I picture when I picture motorcycles.
Yeah, right. And the CEO, Mr. 𝐒𝐳, he also admits like this isn't really on brand. Like when you think of Harleys, you think of like these big roaring engines that make children's ears bleed. He didn't say that part. I said that part.
Lightly edited for clarity.
Yeah, right. And 𝐒𝐳 was basically saying like the purists and the Harley fans, they might not love this transition, but rest assured it will take decades for this transition. There was no hard dates into this full electric transition.
Oh, okay. So did they make like a big formal announcement? Like, we're going to go EV. Is that how that happened, or was it more in passing? He mentioned.
It was more kind of in passing.
Okay.
Like, there was no like giant news outlet that really broke the story. It was Rob Report, which I hadn't heard of until this news. But he kind of realizes that with the vehicle market kind of changing, Harley's going to have to eventually evolve too.
Got it.
I'm not really sure how many. I'm not sure if it's like young people aren't getting into motorcycles. There's like no cool thing about like, I don't know, a loud motorcycle that makes your ears bleed. Like maybe young people want like a quieter, like electric, more modern motorcycle. But I don't know. I feel like there's not really a hard profit motive maybe for them to be rushing into EVs so quickly if there's no timeline on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would think this was like greenwashing if it had been a big announcement, like Harley's going electric by 2050, and I think 2050 is a really long way away and you have a lot of time to go back on this. But I guess if it was just kind of mentioned in passing, maybe it's just him saying eventually we will adapt to this market. It almost sounds more like Harley isn't going anywhere, rather than like, we love the earth.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm totally...
No, I don't think you are. I think it could a little bit be like greenwashing. Like, he just kind of said it in passing and like in an interview, like, yeah, we have plans to do this. I mean, they did roll out like a single electric motorcycle. It's part of like their Livewire like sub company kind of. But yeah, that's really kind of, that was released in 2019, but nothing really since then, nothing earth shattering. So it's just kind of strange that he would mention that, have one motorcycle and then like no follow-up plans. You know, It kind of seems like he's throwing a bone, but can't be sure. I can't be sure.
I'd like to see a market analysis of the average current motorcycle rider and their thoughts on going electric, or thoughts from the more general public about whether they might be more or less interested. Because, for example, I personally have never ridden a motorcycle beyond maybe like an uncle's teeny tiny scooter when I was like a little kid, like something like that, and wouldn't purchase one now, mostly because I'm incredibly risk averse.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I mean, people die on motorcycles a lot, so.
That's true. Public health brain just goes like ding, ding, ding. Like there's a lot of, it's no fault to motorcyclists themselves, but just traffic safety.
Right.
But hearing that they would be electric, maybe like a tiny one, I don't know. I think I'd still probably go more e-bike personally. But I'd be curious, what about you? Just when you hear, oh, I could have a motorcycle and it would be electric, is that more or less or neutral enticing for you?
It's kind of neutral. I think it would maybe come down to like maybe cost, like to fuel the vehicle. Like these are vehicles that you could just bring up to your house, plug it into the wall, or like at a charging station. You know, this is pretty much just like a regular electric vehicle. I kind of like the idea of like just getting like an older motorcycle, like maybe like an old Honda that's like doesn't have a lot of miles on it and still like pretty fuel efficient. Especially now with my van purchase, it's like kind of like my primary vehicle, right? So I'm like looking for something a little bit more fuel efficient. So I've been looking at motorcycles to actually buy like a used one.
Yeah.
But like as of right now, like I think the electric motorcycle is probably too expensive for me as like a Gen Z, you know, in my first career. So
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but are motorcycles in general, I would assume, more fuel efficient than a standard sedan?
Yeah, definitely.
So I could see maybe that being appealing to someone who is looking for an electric or like a more energy efficient alternative.
Yeah.
If you're already going to buy a new EV and you're a single person, or maybe you have a family but you just want like a side vehicle. I could see that for someone who is like, oh, I take my motorcycle to work and my partner picks the kids up, or vice versa. Or maybe I just don't have those kinds of responsibilities. So.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that. Like I would probably buy one used, probably wouldn't buy one new. Like I think I would just be priced out of it, you know, but that would make a lot of sense for like a family household where like the dad's going through his midlife crisis and like he's also kind of a yuppie, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, you talked about your e-bike and how that gets you from place to place, and you are like a young guy who doesn't have to worry about some of these other things where you'd have to pick things up. I mean, you do. You actually like pick up pounds and pounds of cabbage and then just e-bike with them.
But not children.
But I could see if you had to take a slightly longer trip, you're going to go to Kelly's Island or something like that.
Yeah.
Your e-bike is not going to get you there. Yeah. But electric motorcycle would be a low emission way of getting you there. But you could probably say the same thing for purchasing a used gas motorcycle, as you mentioned. So.
Well, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm kind of like researching Hondas that are like maybe from the 80s but have low miles. You know, maybe could fit like me and one other person if I really needed to.
Yeah, or just a sack of cabbage.
Or a sack of cabbage, or 2, or 3.
Priorities. Well, thanks for teaching me about the potential of future electric motorcycles. I'm excited to see what that could do for our air quality, because sometimes when they go by, I mean, cars obviously have plenty of emissions too, but motorcycles will go by and you can really like smell the gas burning.
Smell them and hear them. And it's a little bit unpleasant sometimes. But sometimes those same qualities could be used to describe things that we like and would call pleasant, like fireworks. So can I tell you a little bit about fireworks and Only
their
if you
impact?
tell me your favorite firework first.
Okay. Do you mean like, are there types or just...
Describe it.
Red. Is that good enough?
That's it? I like a red firework.
I don't know. The bursting ones, the traditional firework, that's my kind of firework. Do you have a favorite kind?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a vanilla answer, but it's a better answer than yours.
Okay, great.
It's the one that goes boom.
Oh.
Do you like that one?
Yeah, can you do it again for me? Thank you. That was really descriptive. I can picture it.
It's much better than just red.
Well, listen, I just wasn't prepared to go there. I was about to talk about how they're bad, and then you asked me to think about them this way. Well, we do think about fireworks. At least I should say I think about fireworks generally like an exciting time of the year. I love the summertime, especially now that I live in Northeast Ohio. I wouldn't have said this when I lived in Texas, but living in Northeast Ohio, it's like really long, sunny days. My birthday is in the summertime, and we have the 4th of July. Now, this would have been a few weeks ago now, but I'm still thinking about it. I'm still riding the high of like eating hot dogs and, being with family. This most recent 4th of July was the hottest day ever on Earth in all of recorded history. And so even though it's a great time of year, it was also a really hot time of year. Hottest day on record in Northeast Ohio, not so much, but my friends in Texas really suffering.
Dang.
And then we bring fireworks into the mix.
Yeah.
Clearly, you love a good firework, especially the boom kind, right?
Yeah, that's the best kind.
But fireworks also have some impacts on us and on our environment that I wanted to talk about. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but I think it's our job to go there.
You know, there's always the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yes. So we in the United States tend to use fireworks to celebrate New Year's and 4th of July. Those are the big holidays I think of. People use them to celebrate all sorts of things in like kind of the smaller variety, like the home ones. But those are the two big holidays I think of where they're happening kind of all over the country all at once and really, really big shows.
Yeah.
Those have a lot of negative impacts. The positive we've already talked about. They're fun. It's exciting. I kind of like that smell as they're
it is
bursting in the air.
An interesting smell.
But they also do some stuff that we aren't a fan of. So it scares wildlife and domestic pets.
Yeah.
I actually saw that our local animal shelter was doing like free and reduced price adoptions for dogs the week leading up to 4th of July because they were like, we know we'll get more animals because they run away from home during 4th of July because of all the fireworks. My dog personally could not care less, but some dogs are really scared of that. And it scares wildlife too. So our wildlife will also like be disturbed. It messes up their patterns. It also scares people. There are people who are...
Oh, yeah. Like people with PTSD especially.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. My friend's grandfather's like 90-something, was in Korea. And like, he cannot do the fireworks, man. Yeah.
So it's scary for some people. And then getting into the things that are most relevant for all things green, it worsens air quality by up to 40%. And that kind of travels all the way into the next day. So it's not just the moment that we're lighting the fireworks. Up until around lunchtime the next day, that air pollution is lingering.
Yeah.
So 40% worse, let's put that into context. That is enough to make someone who has asthma or any other kind of like lung issue, respiratory issue, I should say, notice. They will notice that difference in air quality. And it can mean that they can't go outside or they can't do what they would like to be able to do on a normal day. We just went through this, well, with fireworks, but also with the wildfires in Canada. And I know we talked about how that impacted our day-to-day lives. Like, I had to cancel a boat tour. You were struggling on your bike, you said.
Yeah.
So imagine that for people who already have respiratory issues. The pollutants that come from fireworks include things like carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide, and then, of course, your favorite thing, particulate matter.
Yeah. I saw it was really hazy, actually, after the Lakewood Park fireworks show on 4th of July. And afterwards, we went to karaoke, me and some friends. And, it wasn't the easiest job karaokeing that night with all the haze and stuff outside.
But I'm sure you got it done because you're a professional karaokeer.
Yes.
But not without great additional struggle.
Right.
The particulate matter from fireworks includes metallic particles like lead and copper. That's not good.
I didn't know that. That's gross.
Yeah. And it also produces other pollutants that can cause acid rain when it gets into the water. So while the air pollution lingers essentially through the next day and then kind of disperses, all of those things then leach into the waterways and that creates longer term issues than just the single day.
Right.
And of course, the big one, it causes wildfires.
Yeah.
Fireworks, especially home fireworks. The big shows are a little more regulated. They're done by professionals. They aren't as big of a concern.
Yeah.
But those little home fireworks, sparklers, those kinds of things, like those cause wildfires. The National Fire Protection Association said that in 2021, there were more than 12,000 fireworks, more than 12,000 wildfires started by fireworks in the year of 2021 that led to $59 million in property damage. So I love fireworks. I love fireworks shows, but I don't love all those outcomes.
Yeah.
What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, I was never a fan of like those home fireworks show where you're shooting them straight up into the air.
Yeah.
Like that always seemed like a little bit dangerous. I like the danger where it's just enough. Like maybe you got like your, quarter stick of dynamite, you like light it and run away. And you don't have any other explosives around, so if it blows up, there's like, you don't blow your other fireworks up, like maybe just enough danger, but like not like shooting something into the air. Because like it causes house fires too. Like
yes.
That's something that we worry about in suburbia and like the city of Cleveland. You don't want to launch them off to catch somebody's house on fire.
Yep, house fires, people hurt themselves trying to light their fireworks. So, I mean, I just listed off a whole bunch of things that are bad about fireworks, and just like anything else, it's not because I think, well, we should just ban fireworks. But we could maybe try some alternatives, and so I wanted to talk about those and get your impressions. Sure. So I saw two major alternatives that some municipalities were trying. So the first was more what they called eco-friendly fireworks. Essentially, these are fireworks that are made without perchlorate. So that's one of the pollutants that also comes out of traditional fireworks, which really just like makes your nose kind of sting. It can get up into your, make your eyes like runny. Your nose gets runny, your eyes get watery. So it's not good for you. Or with or without, without or with lower levels of those heavy metals we talked about, copper and lead. They can also be silent, which better or worse, depending on what you like about fireworks for wildlife.
Yeah.
And people who are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, that's probably a good thing. Some people like the boom. Psh.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in that camp. I'm not giving up my loud firework. Sorry.
But even with all those changes, they still produce a greater amount of particulate matter than is recommended by the World Health Organization to be safe. So the eco-friendly firework may be slightly better for the environment, but not great still, and certainly not good for our lungs. Another option is light shows and drones. So there are some municipalities who tried things like that. So doing light shows instead of doing fireworks. You can achieve a really similar look in terms of you could do lights that look like fireworks look. They're reusable, they have much lower carbon emissions, they can be quiet, or you could play music instead of the boom, boom, pow. And they don't release any particulate matter or pollutants and don't start wildfires. But I think there's some obvious pushback that we'd see from that. Like, what do you think? What's your first impression thinking about a light show instead of a fireworks show?
I mean, just less fun, honestly. I don't know, like... We should be able to have our fun with fireworks. Like, we should be focusing on cutting emissions in other ways, but like it's still good, I guess, to have these options. Maybe there are some areas that are extra sensitive, right? Maybe like, I don't know, like a senior living facility or something. Maybe you want your light show instead of your, boom or something like that, right? So like, yeah, I guess like maybe just depends on the community or the function, right?
Yeah, I think so too, at least for now. I don't know. When I read stories like this and I have a similar reaction to you of going like, can't we have anything? I just want to keep 4th of July. I love fireworks. Yeah. And then also thinking like, well, we probably said that 50 years ago, 100 years ago about different things that we're used to. Can't I just dump my toxins into the river? Like, it's just easier and cheaper. So I'm not opposed to moving towards light shows, and I'm excited to bring attention to the fact that some municipalities are doing that, and maybe see if anyone's doing a really good job and making them really exciting.
Hey, that's true.
I think we can use tech in cool ways, and maybe this is one of them. But you talked about it. Maybe there's also just different ways we could do fireworks, or better ways that we can prepare communities for the impact of them to minimize the harm while enjoying the effect.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I might see like the most bomb-ass light show I've ever seen in my life, and I'll be like, that's it. No more fireworks for me. I don't need the boom anymore. I just need that, light show.
It could happen. Anything could happen.
When you said boom boom pow earlier, I thought immediately of Fergie. Maybe they should just do like a hologram show of Fergie going boom boom pow. I don't know.
I like that song. It came to mind when I said it too. It wasn't on purpose, but yeah, I thought about it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I love fireworks. Maybe we can plan an ATG outing where we all go see a light show or something like that next 4th of July.
That sounds great. We'll do some reporting on coolest light shows in Northeast Ohio.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, hey, for my next segment, I wanted to talk about something that really fries me. You know what really fries me?
When people don't know the difference between cabbage and lettuce?
That really fries me. But it's not that what I'm talking about. I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, we've talked about urban sprawl a little bit in previous segments, this building out from the cities, creating more and more suburbs, more single-family living. Urban sprawl really fries me, but especially when urban sprawl doesn't even have, like, good planning. And by good planning, it means that they're planning cities and developments that aren't resilient to climate change. So that's kind of, I wanted to set the stage in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like the problem is we're kind of building out single-family developments to begin with outside of cities, but they're also just bad developments, and I'm going to tell you why in this segment.
Yeah, tell me why.
So NOAA has reported that precipitation estimates that engineers are using to design bridges, roads, developments, infrastructure like retention and detention basins, they are like decades out of date by the time that they are built. And this is kind of crazy, like, to think about it. Like, if you are literally creating infrastructure that is out of the date the moment it's finished, that's kind of like a big waste of taxpayer money. Is it not?
It sounds like it. Can you tell me a little bit about why? Like, does it just take that long to plan it? Like, why are we seeing this delay from technology of today versus new production of today?
That's a great question. So the reason why that is because whenever you build something, you go off of climate data that's like 80 years old, right? So they're looking at climate data from like 2023 to like 1940 or something like that. And so you're taking all of this rainfall data, which really kind of skews what you're seeing in our climate today with climate change. You're going to have a lot more moderate rainfalls and like frequency of hard rain events way earlier in like the 1940s. But nowadays with climate change, we're seeing much harder rainfalls, much more frequent rainfalls. So if a development is built to like a 25-year rainfall event, that's considering all this data. Whereas really a 25-year rainfall event might be more like something like a 5-year rainfall event in today's climate.
I see what you're saying. So like maybe instead of looking over the past 80 years of data, can we extrapolate from the last...
Maybe just like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Or what a lot of cities are starting to catch on to doing, their planning departments are saying, we have to adopt more of like a resiliency planning effort. We have to be maybe projecting what climate change is going to look like and the rainfalls that we're going to see. And we have to start building to that standard. Something that's interesting to me is like, this isn't something that's like really new, but almost maybe kind of like a lost art. Like, we used to build like bridges, not me and you, but like people from like the 1910s.
You don't know that, Anton. In a past life, before you knew me. No, I've never built a bridge. I'm sorry.
Maybe in a past life, I don't know. But like people would like build like bridges way over engineered, right? We have all of these projects from like the 1930s, like these worker, what was it called? The WCA or something like
WPA.
that? WPA. We have all these WPA projects that are like way over engineered. They still serve us today.
I mean, to be fair, partly that was because nobody had jobs, and so they were just desperately looking to create things for people to do work. At least that's my understanding. But yeah, my house is an 80-year-old house, and I can see differences in its structure compared to friends of mine that have newer homes. Some of ours seem sturdier than others.
Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So like even just our housing stock, we see it in our housing stock. Like the way that things were built back then are just, well, I don't know. It was sturdier, but that's kind of like getting aside from like the actual like detentions and retention basins that we're talking about when housing developments go in.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, I ran for city council when I was 19 years old on this very not sexy platform of stormwater and basement flooding. And the whole idea was, like, we are putting new developments in near older developments, and we're tying in these newer storm sewers into our older storm sewers that are, like, 100 years old already. So, I don't know if that rings any bells for you, but, like, the alarm bells are kind of going off in my head when I talk about that, right? Because you have this 100-year-old infrastructure, and you're just adding, like, thousands and thousands of gallons more per rainfall to that old infrastructure.
Yeah, it sounds a little scary when you think about how damaging it can be. I mean, I think you've told me before that part of the reason you ran for that office was that you were experiencing flooding in your town. It was a big deal, and I know that the same was true for my husband. I didn't live in areas like that when I was growing up, but it's a concern for me now of thinking, well, what can I put on the floor in my basement that won't get ruined in case this thing gets backed up?
Yeah. Exactly. And so when we see like these old storm sewers, when they fill up, that water has to go somewhere, right? And often the pipes don't burst. They actually will just back up to the homes and eventually enter back into your homes, whether that's like the floor of your basement or the walls, like in the foundation. So that's like scary stuff, right? That's traumatic. Like you said, your husband has some trauma from like basement flooding. Like,
seriously, I was like, we should make this a movie room. And he was like, no way.
Never.
We cannot put anything down here. And we don't want to have to live like that. Like, what's the point of having a basement if you feel like you can't use it because the infrastructure is not going to support it? And, you know, there are people who build homes in floodplains, and that's a different story. But there are still ways that we can better support families with good infrastructure.
Yeah.
What's the solution, Anton? Is there a solution?
Yeah, I think there is a solution. Okay. I think it's the way that we use our land. I know that I'm never going to have the ability to stop suburbs, even though I would like to. And so when developments are put in place, I think with having engineers and cities have pretty strict land use of land ideas, policies maybe is the word I'm looking for. Making sure that when a detention or retention basin is built in the development to take that water falling from the sky, making sure that it's like ample big enough that if it's a really heavy rainfall, it's projected to hold water that we might see 30 years from now when climate change is really bad. Making sure that the storm sewers are ample big enough underneath the road so that when we do have those big rainfalls, it can go it can go where it needs to go, usually to like a creek or a river, without backing up into people's homes.
Yeah, I imagine this would be very expensive for new development. Well, I mean, I should say for updating old development. For new development, maybe it's more expensive because you need more materials, but it's probably less expensive long term to not have to deal with so much flooding. But there are a lot of communities that already exist with infrastructure that's old. And I mean, are there other things we can do, or is it really just at some point all this needs to be replaced?
Yeah, it's going to need to be replaced. I mean, some things that like this Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District does here is like, you even just see them like knocking down old homes that have been built in the floodplain. Like they just flood all the time now. There's nothing you can do. So the sewer district will just buy out that land and they'll maybe expand the floodplain on like the river or the creek. So like there's some like fixes like that where we don't have to completely maybe replace the entire street's worth of infrastructure, but like maybe we can do some like retooling of the environment to create like a sustainable like green infrastructure solution.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I like that theoretically. I'm sure it's a long way down the road to be able to make all those updates. But I like the idea of a future where I don't have to worry about my basement flooding. Is what I really mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing is, like, this burden isn't necessarily on the cities when they're creating new developments. These developments are often, like, paid for by developers, real estate developers. So if cities just wanted to enforce code and say that, hey, you need to make sure that you're following our resiliency planning guidelines, that really doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. It's really more on the developer's side. So
that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Thanks for teaching me a little bit about stormwater, because really, I'm such a dork. I literally went to a stormwater facility when I was on vacation in early July, and there was just so much that I didn't know. So every time we talk, I learn something more, since I know that's sort of your interest area.
I love stormwater. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's just like, yeah.
It just happened.
It just happened, you know?
Did you experience flooding when you were growing up, or just like in your community you knew that was an issue?
In my community, friends' houses, people on like a fixed income, like even when I ran for city council, like and talked to old people, they're like, yeah, I'm on a fixed income. I can't keep dealing with this. Why are they building this development next door to me? It's just going to affect the way my basement floods. It's going to cost them thousands out of pocket. So yeah, you better cut me off. I can keep rolling on this, Shelby. Sorry.
Okay, well, it's been great talking. No, really, it has been great talking all things green with you. So
yeah, how about you let our viewers know how they can stay in touch with us? Then?
I would love that. Thank you, Anton. If you'd like to stay connected to us, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at One Planet Media. That's ONE1. And if you'd like to rewatch full episodes, check out our YouTube channel, All Things Green Show. You can find all of our sources from today's episodes in our show notes.
We'll be back at the same time next week to bring you more news. Thank you so much for being a part of the global sustainability movement. Ding.